and I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat.
They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, and everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Well, hello, and welcome to a Sunday edition of the Shifts and Pucks podcast. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network, live on a Sunday, gathering together just ahead of the Grey Cup, which, yes, people watch. It's still a watched event, but actually a busy Sunday sports overall. The World Cup, the Soccer World Cup started today in Qatar. So lots going on here, NFL, football, CFL, soccer, all the footies, but we're not going to focus on the foot. We're going to focus on the skate here as we've got a lot going on. Chris, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling sore and tired after my personal training session this morning, but other than that, I'm feeling great.
That sounded weird. I'm sore and tired, but other than that, I'm feeling great.
I mean, I tend to contradict myself. You saw that in the intro, didn't you?
I know that sounds normal to me. That's normal for after a good workout.
Yeah, outside of that, I'm feeling good. It's just I'm currently achy.
Fair enough. Okay. Sean, how are you?
I'm all right. Just gonna put this out there right now. Seems like my connection is a bit of an issue today, so I apologize in advance if things get a little wacky on my side. But yeah, I'm doing all right. With the Grey Cup coming up this afternoon and this evening, I've been working on making up a bunch of snacks for us to eat while we watch the game tonight, and yeah, ready to talk some hockey too.
Yes, and of course Tyler, he has been called to. They needed Mr. Plow up in northern BC. The snow up there. Tyler's working. And I think Devin is hanging out with Waldo. There's where's Devin? It's where's Waldo. So maybe Devin will jump in. If you Dan is right. If you criticize Brad Treliving, he usually runs in. So hopefully, maybe that'll happen. Just kidding. But we got a lot. We'll get into this. We'll start with the Canucks, who, this week was better than last week. They got a couple of wins in a row. They finished the road trip off with a win in Buffalo. Hung on for dear life, but a win is a win is a win. And then they played probably one of their better games of the year against the LA Kings. And when Brock Besser scores his first 2 goals of the year, and Pettersson plays well, and Thatcher Demko has his best game of the year, and not hearing the Vultures as much this weekend around the Canucks, but when I came into work this week, Ryan always asks me what's going to happen with the Canucks. Let me start here. I think the one thing that has not been talked enough about with the Canucks is they have played the second least amount of home games in the National Hockey League. Only Arizona, who has played 4, have played less. Like Calgary's played 11 home games, for an example. The Canucks have only played 7. So the runway is tight, But I think the one thing that if you're looking for a little bit of optimism, and we do like to have a little bit of optimism in our hockey look here, uh, they have some home games ahead of them that other teams don't. So I don't know where you put that, but
I would say the other thing is they also have played a lot of their games against the Eastern Conference. So there's a lot of in conference and in division games coming up that they can, if they're going to do something crazy, and they've got the head-to-head matchups that will help them.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know where. I guess I still don't know where I'm at with this team overall. I feel like I feel like part of me is like, yeah, this is a big enough hole, and it's been frustrating. But I also feel like, man, there's a lot of teams that just haven't been able to get their feet under them yet, and the Canucks are one of them. And I don't know. Maybe we just keep watching and seeing what happens.
I mean, I understand that feeling. I get you, Kev. Like, it's to a certain extent, it feels like deja vu from last season, but it's not as bad as last season, or at least it doesn't feel as bad as last season felt at this same time. But at the same time, like you said, for those certain circumstances, there is a little bit of favorability looking forward if the Canucks can take advantage of those. So time will we'll see how this plays out over time, but yeah, they need to take advantage of these extra home games against Western Conference teams.
I think for me, I'm with Kev. I don't know quite how to feel about this team because it's just, if they can act, again, I think I've said this again, puck management, bringing it up again, but playing smart hockey and not just giving games away with poor decisions. I feel like the talent's there to be right in the mix for a playoff spot, but they've shot themselves in the foot so many times just with bad decisions, giving the puck away, trying to do too much, and then fumbling over themselves and giving up odd man rushes. If they can play smart hockey and they can play smart, simple hockey, then and Demko can play the way he did against LA. We get, like, he wasn't necessarily bubble Demko or even the Demko of last season that was dragging that team kicking and screaming back into the playoff race. He wasn't quite
if
there.
If you can do that more consistently, it'll definitely help improve the team.
Yeah, if they can play smart, simple hockey and they get the goaltending, they're going to be way better than what their record has been up until this point.
And not only that, but the strong play, at least so far, generally speaking, that Martin is showing that he's not just a flash in the pan or just having beginner's luck in the NHL. He seems to be a pretty consistently good backup, which I think is a positive to focus on as well.
Yeah, he's been okay. Things have been okay. I mean, Bo Horvat continues to score. It's nice to see Besser score. But I think the other thing that isn't being, I mean, I don't know where, I'm trying to find a man games list here, but it just seemed like the Canucks have been dealing with a ton of injuries. You got Curtis Lazar back, and I'm not saying that Curtis Lazar is the greatest player in the history of players, but I do think he was missed. You just
played so good against the Kings.
Yeah, that physicality. He
was throwing his body around. Oh,
yeah, very needed and missed.
Yeah, that's a type of game that if you play that way consistently, you're going to get to Luke Schenn levels of cult hero-dom there. Like it's we need the Canucks need more of that from the bottom six and the fourth line.
And speaking of Luke Schenn, I know I'm probably kind of pulling this up kind of out of nowhere, and we probably won't be able to pull it up on the feed here, but that photo that someone released of Luke Shen over top of I can't remember which player it was, but the fight that he got in, and it's just him
Miles
over top
Wood.
of the guy with the punch waiting. That was a pretty epic shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he continues to do his things there, but like, I mean, you got Pod Colson who was out with a face injury. You got Jack Studnicka, who you just acquired, he's on IR. Tucker Pullman, whether you like Tucker Pullman or not, that's another injury. Whether you're like Travis Dermott or not, he hasn't played yet this year. So you've got some injuries that you're dealing with. Yeah, I mean,
I don't think they're injuries that I would say should hamper this team, though.
No, but I also think it speaks to, if you have it, it doesn't help them either. Like, I do think, let me throw a scenario out here. Or if Travis Dermott is available, are you playing OEL and Tyler Myers as much as you're playing them?
Yeah, I agree in the sense that they're not key injuries, but at the same time that they're still significant enough that they might affect the team overall as far as performance. But yeah, they aren't ones that are going to be like dragging you down style injuries.
No, but I mean, and everybody has injuries, but that's just another thing that you're dealing with. And you haven't had Demko hasn't been completely sharp. Bo Horvat continues to do Bo Horvat things.
Pedersen's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's been fantastic.
I honestly,
been awesome. Yeah,
because Bo's been just on fucking fire right now with his goal scoring. Petey's game has almost been underrated, strangely enough, even though he's been a better 5-on-5 player than Bo Horvat has in terms of production. And his two-way game has taken another jump, and that's fantastic. That's what the Canucks need. Like, Jeff Merrick has been gushing about Nico Hischier and Selke conversations with him, and rightfully so, but I think Petey's going to be within that conversation, like in the border of that conversation where sort of Hischier is right now, trying to break into it real quick, whether it's this season or next, if he continues this progression.
Yeah,
he's at least putting himself in the conversation for sure.
If the Canucks start winning, it's an easier conversation to have about Pedersen in a Selke Trophy conversation. Yes, for sure. But I mean, I guess there's still all these questions with the Canucks. You still can have them, but I don't know. I guess to me, this is just a wait and see moment. I think again, I think the other player, I think Ilya Mikheyev continues to be a really solid ad for the Vancouver Canucks. I would argue that if you're still seeing what the Leafs are missing, Devin, and what the Canucks have, I think watching Ilya Mikheyev is one area where, and especially when I'm hearing that a lot of people saying that the Leafs look slow, I think, look, where there's no Ilya Mikheyev in that lineup. There you go.
So an underrated clutch middle six piece is what you're saying?
Yeah, he's been really good. And, he
plays such a direct, like, straight line game.
Yep.
Which is something that, like, if you watch the Canucks when they're struggling, they played so much east-west, and especially high in the zone. One of the big changes that they've made is, you're going to have Mikheyev on Pedersen's line. They're able to grind it out down low a little bit, but also when you looked at the last couple games, when they've put together the Horvat down the middle with Miller and Garland on the wings, that line's actually been playing a little deeper in the zone as well, which has really helped. The deeper in the zone the Canucks can play, the better. So, like, they need players like Mikheyev, like Miller to play deeper in the zone and stop trying to dipsy doodle around the top of the circles. That's more of a stop trying to do that more than Mikheyev, because Mikheyev just goes straight to the net and creates havoc. So
yeah, when Miller gets cute, that's when he runs into trouble for sure. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess with the Canucks, I don't really know what there is to in terms of this current conundrum here. What there is to talk about, I don't have any. Like, I mean, I think there's a lot to praise. I think to me, it's a wait and see moment. And we'll
I
see
still
what
want to see them take a longer term approach to this season. I don't want them just hoping that they get in. I want to see them take a longer term approach. So, as much as that pains me, I think that means for me that means a Bo Horvat trade. Unless they can find a way to make a deal work that makes sense and they're able to move out cap elsewhere. They need to continue to hunt down and see if they can find some younger right-handed defensemen that they can build on. Ethan Bear has looked good. I think he's quickly become a top 4 defenseman for the Canucks. And I don't think that's you can call that a detriment on the Canucks with that blue line, but the way he's played, I think he'd be a top 4 on many teams.
And with how generally weak on defensive depth we have right now, I think saying that he's a top 4 is a decent compliment that doesn't necessarily make the Canucks roster look great, but it definitely is a compliment for Ethan.
He was a top 4.
That, I guess, like I said, I think he'd be a top 4. The way he's been playing, I think he'd be a top 4 on a lot of teams.
He was a top 4 wasn't he top 4 with the Oilers or close to it?
Yeah, he was playing with Darnell Nurse.
He was playing with Nurse.
With the Oilers, yes, not so much with the Canes.
No, but that's a deeper.
He never got his feet underneath him in Carolina. Whether he got COVID and couldn't, and then he never gained the trust of Rod Brind'Amour. And with defensemen, that's a huge deal. And we're seeing that with Rathbone. We're seeing that with Stillman seems to have that with Boudreau over Burrows and Rathbone. But when you don't have the trust of the coach, even if it's so hard to get it back sometimes.
Yeah. And it's frustrating at least I feel for Burrows because I feel like the games that he has been in, he's shown well, but he's just being put into the lineup so inconsistently that it's hard for him to really kind of get his groove.
And even then, I think there's a lot of as much as we all like Burrows, I think we're looking at the big sort of elephant in the room is what are you doing with Rathbone? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. What?
Uh-oh.
Oh,
What?
snap. We talked enough Leafs that we conjured them up.
See, what I always need to do is find some way. Dan's mentioned this. If you criticize tree living, that gets Devin on the show right away.
Well, I wasn't even listening, so Sean must have been spewing some shit.
No, I
we
said
were
this
talking
is
Leafs.
it was actually me. I said the Leafs look slow, and you could just see that without Ilya Mikheyev there. That's what I said.
Devin's ear just started twitching. He's like, oh, shit, podcast.
Send the bat signal out and I'll come. I'll try to come at least.
How the hell are you?
Oh, fucking busy, man. It's I'm good overall. It's just there's a lot going on, a lot of juggling right now for my life. So it's good things, but also, very stressful at the same time.
Fair, but we've missed you.
I've missed being on. That's for sure. I cannot remember the last time I was actually on the podcast, let alone starting the podcast on time. That's a different story too.
That's a different echelon entirely.
Organization on point.
I think the last time Devin was on, Kevin wasn't.
Yeah, it was Graham.
And it was a gong. It was with
the Graham
It was a
episode.
gong show.
And even then, he
time?
wasn't on at the very start. He jumped in I think 2 minutes in, but he still technically wasn't on at the start.
No, it's probably been at least 3 to 4 months that I've actually been on at the start of the podcast. Yeah. But yes, Kevin, to jump off your point there with Mikheyev, I think Toronto does miss his energy and his shorthanded goals for sure.
Yeah. We were kind of just riffing about the Canucks and what they do with Jack Rathbone. They've won 2 in a row. We're kind of in a position where we don't know what to think, and we're just kind of in wait and see with the Canucks. I don't know.
Regarding Rathbone, I think we should just not do what we did with DiPietro and send him back down to the AHL so he actually can play games. That's going to be the best thing for him.
He's not playing.
And with Stillman and Burrows and essentially the logjam of, let's be brutally honest, mediocre defensive depth, they should actually allow him to thrive in the AHL.
Yeah.
For any young defenseman, any young player, if you're not playing in a regular shift, why stunt your growth? I'm sorry, Shane Wright. That's another thing that's happened is that the Seattle Kraken have not done anything for his development, let alone everything that's happened with COVID. So it goes with all players pretty much is that, they haven't had a regular shift in the NHL for, could be for a little bit. So put him down.
And
get him
that's
developed.
Cruel irony for Shane Wright too, because that was the whole reason ultimately why people say he dropped from first to fourth was basically he wasn't able to consistently play, whether it was COVID or what have you, but he wasn't able to consistently develop like he normally would have in a non-pandemic environment. And then now it's only being exacerbated now at the NHL level. So yeah, definitely feel for him.
Well, just to hop on that Shane Wright point here, he's been scratched 5 games in a row. He can do a 2-week conditioning stint in the AHL. So the Kraken can do that. He gets called up. That game he gets called up is December 4th. Guess who the opponent is?
Montreal.
The Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it either means 2 teams. It's going to be something about a regional rivalry with the Canucks, or it's him and his revenge thing with the Habs.
And
even then, though, what do you expect from him to be at NHL caliber by that point?
Well, then you put him.
I think that
you send him to the World Juniors. He needs to shine. He absolutely needs to shine, and which he hasn't done at the last. He didn't do at the last World Juniors. He didn't shine. It was the Connor Bedard show, and he needs to step up, and he needs to prove it.
And with how Bedard's playing right now, it might still be if that ends up being the case.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you saw that highlight, but 10 seconds into the game and he's already taken over.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And I'm so pissed that the one game he does not show up, Devin and I went and watched him.
He was, other than trying the Michigan or the lacrosse goal, whatever you guys want to call it, he was pretty unnoticeable. He was a little scrappy and pushing and hacking people going to the bench, which I thought was funny. Other than that, though, it was very mediocre.
He tried to break Gordon Bombay's leg with a slash too. I remember that game in that game.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess overall with the Canucks, I don't know. I don't know what else really in terms of the team, what there is to say. I think you're right, Sean. You got to go a long-term approach. I think you have to look at trading Horvat. I'm sorry. I think also Besser. I think that has to be looked at as well. I think that doesn't. I mean, for the right price,
someone you have to look at. But what's the return? What's the return there? And it's the same thing with Luke Shen. There's gonna be teams interested in him, but what's the return? I was actually talking with Graham about a Besser deal because he's like, in his dream world, he would love to see Besser on the Oilers playing with Draisaitl. I'm like, what are you giving up? And he keeps giving me like Puljujarvi, Yamamoto in a second, and I'm like, Puljujarvi or Yamamoto in a second. I'm like, why does that not feel good? Not feel enough, especially when those two that are listed are only like a year younger than Besser. Like, so I'm just.
And you could, if you wanted Yamamoto,
comes down to the return.
If you wanted Yamamoto, he was an RFA and they went to arbitration. You could have easily offer sheeted him. and you could have gotten him. And I know we talked about it for Calgary because he's a right shot, right winger. But obviously that wasn't the case. It didn't seem like anybody was wanting to do that. So why would that be okay to give up a very talented player for a mediocre forward and a potential second round pick? Don't know.
But let's be honest, when anyone, whether you're talking about NHL level or fantasy, like if you're the one proposing the trade, you are trying to take advantage of a weakness. So clearly in Graham's line of thinking, he's like, yeah, I'll take Besser. I can see that potential there, but I'm going to give you the two people that I'm currently not happy with in a package deal.
Yeah. But what do the Oilers have? I mean, if I'm the Canucks, maybe look at Xavier Bourgeau, maybe? That might be it.
Yeah, Bourgeau and Reed Schaefer are the two that I would be almost demanding in that trade. But
what? Not
other than
top
that,
top pairing than Cody Ceci. You guys don't want him? Weird.
We came to within division's always a tough trade to make, and then I don't think it makes I'm pretty sure the Oilers are going to put Bourgeau and Schaefer on essentially the almost untouchable list, and I don't think there's a match there for needs. So yeah, again, I think it all cut with Besser, and again, like I said, I'll throw Luke Shen in there too, because if they're getting back is a third or fourth round pick, if Luke Shen's willing to sign another deal for a year or two, I don't know why you wouldn't, because he brings something that Canucks blue line needs. And even if you are rebuilding or retooling or looking long term, you need that on your team.
I have a hot take.
What's that?
I think that is a possibility, a legitimate possibility. You would get more from Luke Shen than Tyler Myers.
I don't think that's as hot as you think.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's a reasonably lukewarm take.
I mean, the time to trade Tyler Myers is in the summer after his bonus has been paid out, because then I don't think he's owed that much in the final year of his deal.
Yeah, because at that point it would only be 1 year left, right?
So if you've got a team who, yes.
The only problem with that, though, is he has a no trade list starting July 1 with 10 teams.
Yeah, he has leverage in that aspect for sure.
I could see potentially the same timing as Tyler Toffoli came to Calgary with a few years left. It would be probably a team that's looking for more depth for the next little bit and sees a potential window to make a push for the playoffs, and very much similar to I'm not saying the Flames would be interested in that, and that might be the case. Who knows? Depending on obviously with the depth of the Flames that they are right now, and they have, I don't think you really want DeSimone and Gilbert to be regulars in the NHL. So and depends on all that health on the back end and when Shillington's coming back. But my point is that Calgary has basically a 2 to 3 year window from now to make a massive push for the playoffs and for the Stanley Cup, and that'd be a team that I think a team like that could be in the running for Tyler Myers.
Just to clarify, the Tyler Myers trade that kicked in this past July 1st. He had a full no trade before that.
There we go.
So he's got a 10 team no trade list. So he's 20 teams that you can trade to. 21 teams.
Yeah. I know that it was mentioned last night, the idea of a Tyler Myers to Ottawa. I would have trouble. I don't know Tyler Myers from a hole in the wall, but looking at Ottawa right now, I'm not sure I see a reason why Tyler Myers needs to head to Ottawa.
A potentially unproven team who is pushing. They're up and coming, but he only has 2 years left. Well, a year and a half left on his contract. So why would he go to a place that potentially might not be a thing.
And maybe I'm too sentimental for my own good, but I'm rooting for the Carlson back to Ottawa plot line. Because there's been rumors that they've been sniffing about him.
That's I can't see Ottawa. I don't. It's Erik Karlsson is an absolutely phenomenal. It is probably. It's got to be one of the at least top 3 stories of the year. But that's not for Ottawa. I don't think that they should touch that at all. That San Jose is gonna, like, as much as Erik Karlsson is playing phenomenally well. I don't think that they're gonna get the package that they want for that. Unfortunately,
he's still got
not only that, but with how much he's making, they're gonna have to retain too.
Oh, sorry.
After this season, he still has 4 years left. He still has 4 years left at $11.5 million.
Yeah,
that's after this season. Like, that's
Chris,
such a tough contract to do anything.
Yeah, fair enough. To be honest, I kind of lost the train of thought after the fact that Sean and I were kind of talking over each other there.
It would have to be a retained salary situation. Like, there's no way that it would be able to go straight up, especially with this cap right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be something very similar to what I was talking about with the team with the window and going for it within the next 2 years.
Yeah. I guess the other thing with the Canucks, the Sedins, Luongo entered into the Hall of Fame. I don't think that this is a surprise. No, I mean, it was a nice presentation, all of that. I mean, we'll touch on who should be in the Hall of Fame a little bit later, but congratulations to them.
Definitely the biggest Canucks day in Hall of Fame history, because outside of them, it's just Bure that's in the Hall, right?
Is Trevor Linden not in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so.
No.
He's a local legend, but I don't think he's NHL Hall of Fame material.
He's not.
So hold on. Kevin Lowe is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but he was on the 80s Oilers.
And Trevor Linden isn't?
It's purely the 80s Oilers connection for Kevin Lowe. Other than that, I'm a diehard Canucks honk. And I'm willing to admit that Linden is not at the level to be in the Hall of Fame.
He's in the BC Hall of Fame. BC Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he belongs there. Yep. He's a local legend, but the Hockey Hall of Fame, not quite.
I'm just saying, I don't think Kevin Lowe's a Hall of Famer.
I mean, if you're gonna say that former Canucks that are in the Hall of Fame, there's also Mark Messier.
That's true, technically. That's very true.
I'm going to bite my tongue on that one.
And Igor Larionov, actually.
Yes, he is in the Hall of Fame. He is.
But and I know it's not like baseball where you have to be associated with a specific team, but like I feel like, especially for both those players, they're not really known to be in the Hall for their contributions on the Canucks, per se.
Right. Yeah. By the way, if Kevin Lowe,
no, but at least with Larionov, I feel like it's At least with Larionov, I think you can tell more of what the story of his career was, as opposed to just the footnote that the whole Messier era was with the Canucks.
Just back to Kevin Lowe. Kevin Lowe should be in the Builder Hall of Fame. I would have no problem with that if he was in as a builder, but as a player, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Sorry. I know he was on all the 6 Stanley Cups. For his contributions to Team Canada, I think, yes, he was a builder. I do think he contributed to the game of hockey. I do think that in that case, I think there's a legitimate argument for him, but as a player, no, I don't think he's a Hall of Fame.
Like I agree with Kevin's sentiment that if he is going to be in, it should be as a builder, not a player. But yeah, ultimately still just questionable overall as far as Hall of Fame worthy.
Fair. Let's get to the Flames. Devin, we haven't this team, this has been an interesting team. They got off to the 5-1, 5-2 start. They had that game against the Oilers where Markstrom misplayed the puck. I mean, it was a bounce. McDavid jumped off the bench and does Connor McDavid things, and they score. And Sutter changes the lines. They go on a 7-game losing streak. The lines are still in this blender, but they eke out the win against Florida. Where are you at with the Flames? I guess maybe that's where we start. Where are we at with the Flames?
Well, I am frustrated with Darryl Sutter. I think he needs to get his head out of his ass a little bit, to be very blunt and honest. Having Jonathan Huberdeau on the third line with Backlund and Coleman is not, I repeat, not where he belongs. Get him up with either Nazem Kadri or preferably Elias Lindholm and make them figure it out. I think it's asinine that he is down there. And I'm not saying anything against Backlund, but his release isn't like Lindholm's release, and we saw flashes of some chemistry within the first few games of the season with those two. So I don't understand why he has him down there. And if there's a vendetta that Darryl Sutter seems to get every once in a while, Yusuf Valimaki being one of them, you're losing out. We have this guy for 8.5 years in this organization. He needs to be playing on a different line.
Yeah, it seems a very non-Darryl-esque move to do, too.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, to me, it seems like for him to be buried, to be that significant of a player and to be buried that far down, it just, to me, it doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense as far as something that a coach who wants to win and get W's would do. It seems like he's shooting himself in the foot by burying him down in the lineup like that, unless it's just to prove a temporary point. That's the only exception that I would really throw into there.
Okay, my
only argument here with this, and I'm pretty sure this is where Kevin's going to go as well, is that Coleman and Backlund aren't necessarily your typical quote-unquote third-line players that he's playing with. And yes, Dev, you are right in terms of Backlund doesn't have the shot that Lindholm has, but it's not. What I like about that top 9 is there's depth there, and there's a legit top-end offensive threat on each line. And if you can find a way to make that work, I think that actually puts the Flames in a better position going forwards than potentially loading up on one line.
Well, it wouldn't be even loading up on one line. Sorry, Kev, go for it, man.
This is just from the Backlund perspective, who, by the way, he's playing more than Kadri. His average ice time, 17:43. Kadri's is 17:16. Just for that point. But if Matthew Tkachuk gets into the Hall of Fame, he better thank Michael Backlund for getting him into the Hall of Fame, because Backlund is one of those guys that makes players better around him, not because he's a great playmaker, not because he is fantastic. There's one particular thing that Backlund does well. He just seems to bring the best out of people. And I think that was probably where Darryl Sutter was thinking of putting Huberdeau with Backlund. The confusion all of a sudden was, why on earth are you putting Milan Lucic with Lindholm and Toffoli? And the only legitimate argument is Lucic and Toffoli played together before. But I think that was more of a head scratcher to me than putting Backlund with Huberdeau, because I kind of get it, because Backlund is almost like a winger whisperer. He can get people out of whatever funk that they're in, and then you can move them forward. I think he's done wonders. He's done wonders for Mangiapane. It would be interesting to see where Mangiapane gets his goals from. He's certainly not getting a lot of goals right now. So he just seems to bring the best out of players. So that's what I like about putting Backlund and Huberdeau somewhat together. But what I don't like is ending up with Lindholm and Lucic. That, I like Milan Lucic, and I think he does a lot of things right, but I cannot legitimately argue for Lindholm and Lucic on the same line.
No,
Yeah. If this was 2012, maybe, but it's
Well,
not.
it's a good thing that good thing that Ruzicka's stepped up then.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a gamble. Like you're talking about having Ruzicka up on that top line in comparison to a guy who's been in the league for X amount of years, over 10 years, or right around there at least, and had a 100-point year. Yes, it was a career year last year, but like that's a hell of a gamble. I do understand where Sean's coming out with the depth. I like that too. But you could load up those top two lines, not even just top two lines with your 6 best forwards, and then tweak from there. And then you have the role playing, which still gives you having Backlund and Coleman, who's both of them is kind of being not really a good second liner, but definitely better than a third liner kind of role with anybody else. I think that you really need to try that before you give it a good shot before you can shoot it down. Because we coming into the season, all of us, if I remember properly, we're going to saying that, okay, it might take a little bit of time for the Flames to get in a rhythm, right? They got off to a good start, which was great, but obviously had that 7-game losing streak come down the pipe, which was, I think if it's going to happen, now's the time to have that shitty feeling and then slowly build from there. But I don't know. It just, yes, it worked out last night having Ruzicka on that top line. Long term, I don't know. I think that's if it works, call me out. I don't care. But as of right now, you need to get next year's highest paying player on that top line and getting going, because it's not going to be with Backlund and Coleman. I think it's a detriment to Huberdeau to be with them. Not saying, because I think what Kev said really makes sense. Backlund can be a really good fixer for people or for his line mates, which is fantastic. But no, not with Huberdeau. Huberdeau needs to be on that top line.
To go back to your point on Lucic, I just looked it up. This season is his 16th season in the NHL. Not just 10.
Well, that is amazing.
That's crazy.
He started with the Bruins in 07-08.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other issue, though,
I think these lines though are also more of a short term. He's got 6 points last 5 games, 5-on-5. And then Darryl's trying to get Huberdeau going. I think long term we will see Huberdeau be bumped back up to the Lindholm line, but I think you are seeing some just try to get Huberdeau going because he has had a slow start.
Well, the other issue,
he just came off an injury as well.
The other issue is, I'm sorry, you cannot, if your name is Dylan Dubé, Brett Ritchie, Michael Stone, Trevor Lewis, Nikita Zadorov, even Adam Ruzicka should not have more goals than you this season. Dylan Dubé has 1 goal this year. And this is a guy that you need to put. He has the potential to be in a top 6, top 9 role. If Dylan Dubé is going, that's a guy, like, legitimately, if Dylan Dubé is going, you can put him with Lindholm and Toffoli, and it's like, okay, I can kind of see where you're going here with Backlund and Huberdeau. I'm scratching my head a little bit, but I'm not like scraping my head because I've seen something from Dylan Dubé. But Dylan Dubé is giving legitimately. I don't like doing this, but Dylan Dubé has contributed nothing, almost close to nothing this year. It's not even been close to good enough for Dylan Dubé, to the point that I think it's a legitimate time to scratch him.
Yeah, I've seen him fly. It kind of reminds me of Lombardi. Who's that guy? Matthew Lombardi. Thank you. Super fast, but that's all he has. He can get his wheels under him. But other than that, I agree, Kev. It should be a massive wake up call to Dylan Dubé and he should be scratched. I agree. And within doing that, I would love to see Matthew Phillips up here. But I know that's not going to happen because look who the head coach is.
Just a quick aside, would a Canucks comparison of what your description of Lombardi be? Would it be fair to say that that's kind of like what Michael Grabner was for the Canucks? All speed, but no finish sort of kind of player?
Yep. Similar.
Okay. I mean, I'm no authority on Flames, so I'm just trying to get my understanding of your description of the player.
I think Grabner was a better player overall than Lombardi, but that's just my take.
Yep, fair enough.
And also, I think more needed from Andre Mangiapane. One goal in 11 games for a guy that got 35 last year, and yes, he got off to a hot start. He's playing with Kadri. He's playing with arguably the best all-round forward for the Flames this year. I think it's fair to expect more from Andre Mangiapane in terms of offense.
Yeah, you know what? With Dubé and Mangiapane, you got the positive thing is that we know what they can do. I mean, more consistently with Mangiapane than Dubé, but the upside is there. So I truly believe within this lineup, Markstrom hasn't been playing up to his standard, and I think he will come back to the mean. Then the defense, they've been underwhelming as far as I'm concerned. And then you have Dubé, Mangiapane, and even Kadri, who I think can give more. Yeah, that's what gives me hope within this season for the Flames, is that the processes are there. It's just they weren't getting results, right? Look at that massive losing streak. They had a massive amount of shots in the first period, and then it was Markstrom bringing them down, just letting in one weak goal a game pretty much, right? So Mangiapane does need to be better, but I think overall the team has a lot of hope in its future.
Yeah, I think you still got to get another top 6 type of forward. And I still think in terms of defense, I mean, we need to. I mean, we don't need to. We don't know what's going on with Oliver Shillington. I think Darryl Sutter would rather play Mackenzie Weegar on the right than the left. So you're solid on the right. On the left, you're not then, because I don't think Nikita Zadorov, God love him, but he's not a top 4 defenseman. And Dennis Gilbert is fine, but Dennis Gilbert is a number 6-7. And even Michael Stone at his best is a 6-7. I mean,
he's also a right side guy too.
Yeah, he can play the left, but yeah. And go ahead, Devin.
Yeah, but with that defense, I think what they would really like is to have Tanev with Weegar and then push down Nikita Zadorov. I think it's just sheltering that third pairing with not having Gilbert or DeSimone with Zadorov. I think that'd be an absolute tire fire to watch. So they're just spreading out their depth within that, and hopefully Stone will be back soon enough. So we could have that top 4 defense be more solidified within that lineup.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Flames didn't have a lot of injuries last year, so I think there was a lot of things that they were able to do that they're not able to do this year. And also just with the whole Lindholm, Gaudreau and Tkachuk, that was just, it's rare that you find that kind of chemistry off the bat. I was trying to think, maybe the perfection line, maybe McDavid Draisaitl. It's very rare to find that kind of chemistry within a line like that. So to expect Lindholm and Huberdeau to click off the bat is just not going to happen. That's just going to take time, and they've never played together. So that in that case, I mean, and then getting these other guys going. But yeah, I still think the Flames need one more defenseman though too. I maintain that even when you get Shillington back, I still think you need 8 good defensemen to have a good cup run. And I don't really think they have it. I think Dennis Gilbert is kind of okay. but I wouldn't. If it's the 8 that you see here, Anderson, Hannafin, Tanev, Uyghur, your combinations of Stone, Shillington, Zadorov, Stone, and Gilbert. I'm not convinced that's enough. I'm not me. I don't know. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
different.
No, I'm with you on that, and I think you do need some experience for the playoffs, especially at the defensive side. So getting in a veteran like a Luke Shen would be amazing, because he is an AHL defenseman right now.
Well played, Devin. Well played.
Yeah, no, like there's a lot of upside within this lineup. No matter what, I think an acquisition of a top 9 piece for your forward group just to create a little bit of competition too, because it doesn't seem like there's much within that lineup. You do have all your fourth liners kind of cycling through those lines, and I can understand why you're doing that, because it is a Darryl Sutter type of move within that. But getting some competition within that top 9, bringing a little bit more skill, and then just solidifying that defense with. I mean, that's assuming that Stone and Shillington are going to be back, both of them are going to be playing at some point this year. Getting one more just to solidify that, I think, would be huge.
And then for the Flames, at least the nice thing is that they're not desperate for a right shot defenseman. If they're going to add a defenseman with the makeup they have, especially if Michael Stone, I pulled the Devin there, comes back and is playing well, it'll be a left shot guy that they'll be looking for.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be looking for an upgrade on Gilbert and DeSimone. Because they've got Milosh on the right side as well, who can come up and play. But I think they'll be looking for a left shot, which makes it an easier acquisition than the the vaunted right shot defenseman that gets overvalued.
Yeah, and it's really too bad that Connor Mackey's been fucking terrible. Like, he's been so bad. It's because he's always been there in the background within this the depth on the Flames and the Wranglers now. But you've always thought that potentially he would be able to step in and be an NHLer, but it's just that hasn't happened yet, which is unfortunate. And it does happen that you do have prospects that you're excited for and wait to see exactly who they are, and they fall flat on their face. So
or they're like that tweener, right? They're good. They're good AHL player who's maybe a really good AHL player who just can't take that next step.
Yeah.
Or they're in the wrong organization.
But also, I think that. Well, I think there's also the fact that, like, sometimes, again, we talked about Ethan Bear earlier and how he just never never gained the trust of the coach Rod Brindamore in Carolina, and now he's looked good again in Vancouver, and he looked pretty good in Edmonton too. Sometimes you just don't get the confidence of the coach, and they just don't put you in, aren't willing to stick it out, even if they have a rough patch, because young players do have rough patches a lot.
And I just think it takes a long time for defense to truly develop. I mean, Winnipeg was Ville Heinola, right? I mean, that was a guy that I think a lot of people were really high on, and now talking about trading him, seeking him in another organization, a first-round pick, right? So that's another example.
I'll be honest. I think that we've seen so many young players come up with all the skill in the world. They just don't know how to use it, and especially defensemen these days. And I think the more stats, the way with more analytical approach to quote unquote scouting and how people evaluate players now, and then all this talk about how the prime of an NHL player's career is getting younger. I don't actually think it is. I think we are starting to see that the fact that the game's so fast now that they've got all these players come up, they have all the skill in the world, they don't know how to use it, and they don't have the mental game, and a lot of them won't ever have it.
Yeah, the mental game is huge for gaining confidence. Because if you're relying on your skill, and I've seen it a bunch where very skilled players come into the league, but yeah, they flare out because they just don't have that mental fortitude to push through the tough times, and maybe get a bit of criticism, and then they go back into their total shell.
Or even mental game where just knowing how to use the skills that they have. Like they can stick handle it in a phone booth, but do they know what to do with the puck after they've done that? A lot of them don't. Or they just don't quite have the speed, or they don't quite have or they know what to do. It takes them that extra split second to get there, and by that time the plays closed down.
Yep. The only defenseman that has played 100 games from that 2019 draft, Moritz Seider. Which I think, and that is, Philip Broberg has played, let me go back here. Philip Broberg, he's played 23. We've got Victor Soderstrom that's played 20 with Arizona, and Tobias Bjornfort. Those are the only two. Moritz Seider and Tobias Bjornfort are the only defensemen that have played over 100 games in the National Hockey League from that draft. Nolan Foote was not a defenseman, but that's pretty much it. York's played 33. Bowen Byram, although to be fair, had a concussion, has played 59.
Stanley Cup winner.
Yep. So it's just, Lassie Thompson has played 16. Thomas Harley has played 34. It just takes a long time. That's it. And I think that we have just high expectations of players too. And yeah.
Well, with Mackey, he's 26. He has arb rights at the end of the year, and usually around this time is when, on average, you see young players, young prospects for defense start to shine, or getting more of an opportunity to. So, if Mackey's going to want to stay with this organization, he has arbitration rights, but I don't think he has a really good arbitration case for next year if Brad Treliving decides to go down that road. Maybe it is a trade, change of scene to change him, but I don't think that as far as he goes, I don't think there is much of a positive road for being in the mix for the Calgary Flames.
Well, when Darryl Sutter said you have to take your opportunity, you didn't take advantage of your opportunity. That is a red flag there. And I had this debate with Mike Gould on, and no disrespect to Mike, but this was the argument. It's like, the Flames don't play their first rounders. Jacob Pelche is one of the 5 that hasn't had a chance to play in the NHL yet. And my argument has been, like, just because you're a first rounder, that doesn't entitle you to be in the NHL. Like, you still have to work for it. And if you're not seeing it, you're not seeing it. Like, I think Pelche is close, but I still think that Sutter wants to see a little bit more from him. And if it takes a little longer to marinate the guy, then let him marinate. I don't think the Flames' development is necessarily at issue here. The Wranglers are not like this. I'm not seeing, like, the Wranglers are not dominating the AHL right now. They're fighting for a playoff spot. So I'm not I don't know. And I think that goes with defensemen, just because, for all the Cale Makars that there are in the world and the Moritz Seiders, it's a lot. It's hard. It's hard to crack that lineup.
Well, Pelche he's only 21 years old. He's a shorter guy too. He's 5'9", And when we had a friend of the show, Peter Labardius, on, he was talking about, and this was when I was asking him last year, why have we not been able to see Pelche? Because I feel like he was ripping it up last year in the A. Was that he doesn't have the weight. He doesn't have the man weight and the man strength yet to be everyday NHLer. And I have no problem with, as far as forwards go, and defense, that if you have to marinate down in the AHL longer and dominate that before getting up, I don't see a problem with that whatsoever. You take the Detroit Red Wings. That's all they did. They marinated, and then they got brought up into the NHL and absolutely killed it. Right? How many years in a row did the Detroit Red Wings make the playoffs before they didn't?
Yeah, it was
20 something. I can't remember the exact amount of years. It was in the 20s though.
Yeah.
Part of that was part of the pre cap era where developing players was a lot, and how you built teams was a lot different because you didn't have to worry about the cap. But yeah, there is. It's not an exact science. Just because you're a first rounder doesn't mean you should be guaranteed ice time. But when you look at what Pelche's done in the AHL, I mean, he's done everything and almost more than you can ask from a prospect at this point. With 27 goals in 66 games, 62 points last season, and now he's got 15 and 5 goals in 14 games so far this season. So, I look at that and I think he is close, and I think he needs to be given an opportunity. Same with Matthew Phillips. Connor Zary is close as well. But it's also up to the coach to who he wants to give that opportunity to, and if he has that confidence in them. And if he doesn't, then he's not going to play him. Look at Seattle with Shane Wright. Look at Vancouver with Jack Rathbone. Those are both players that were supposed to be young players that are supposed to step up into the lineup this year and give the team a little bit of hope and some youth, and they're not getting played.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the one difference, Rathbone's been around for a while. This is Wright's first year, but I get what you're saying there for sure. Anything else on the Flames we need to dig into?
Are you worried about Markstrom?
Kind of.
No.
So Kevin, Dan Vladar is not going to do the Stuart Skinner, like what you expect from Stuart Skinner.
Markstrom's a better. Well, I think Markstrom's a better goalie than Campbell. First of all,
yes.
That's the first thing. I think where I see Jacob, I'm hearing Jacob Markstrom recognizing that he needs to get his game going. So that's why I'm not worried about it. If he was acting a little bit differently, then I would be. But he's a guy that is aware that he needs to work on his game, so he's going to work on his game. So that's why I'm not super worried about him. But that being said, I do think they need to. I would like to see a little bit more Vladar. I think Vladar's had one bad game, maybe, that he's played that I've seen that he wasn't spectacular in, or I think you can play Vladar a little bit more to help Markstrom get together, but I'm not worried about Markstrom, no.
I'm worried about his mental game, because I think that's where it all started last year, and he started not looking so good in the playoffs against the Oilers, and it's kind of bled into the season a little bit. That is my concern. I think that he is able to get out of it. Absolutely. He'll be able to get back to his form. It's just, I think the question is when. Right now,
he just has the yips right now.
Yes, absolutely. Because right now he's a way better goals against average and 3.11 this year, and obviously save percentage wise as well. Like on the other side of it is when he in that 7-game losing streak, the shots. It's hard to get in the rhythm of a game when you're not getting any shots. Especially, it's been what I could just think of on average. I think they were scored on first for 4 or 5 of those games, and it was on the first shot or first 3 shots, and it was like I just think puck luck is going to go in Markstrom's way, and eventually he will be able to get out. But yeah, to Chris's point, I think he has the yips. And I think that having Vladar as your backup to help kind of stabilize that position a little bit more, he's been damn good. I've been very impressed by him. But to Sean's question, no, he's not going to pull a Stuart Skinner.
No,
I don't think Stuart Skinner's going to pull that the way Kevin thinks either.
For those who missed it, I said that Stuart Skinner is going to take the number 1 spot from Campbell by around January. He's played 3 straight games, by the way.
Well, I think it's actually a really good thing for the Oilers that Stuart Skinner is playing well. It's going to allow Jack Campbell to get used to the system and get through his issues. But I think by the end of the season, it will be Jack Campbell's net.
I think it'll be Skinner's net.
I could see it going. I'm right down the middle. I'm pulling a Chris.
I'm going to pull a Sean. I'm going to pull a Sean and actually pick a damn table. And I actually agree with Sean on this one. I feel like in this instance, it's more of a hot take by Kev, and that I just don't see Skinner being the long-term number 1. It might be more of a tandem situation than they initially had thought of, but I just don't see Skinner overtaking Campbell.
I could see. I would agree that it's more of a tandem than they probably expected it to be at the beginning of the year, a 1A, 1B. And that, I think that's a fantastic way to go, especially when you have Jack Campbell. When he's on, he's fucking amazing. But when he's off, you can't stop a beach ball, right? So that you're married to Jack Campbell for another, 4 years after this, at $5 million. That is, I think, I'll do 51% over to Sean and Chris, but I can't deny that, you know, Stuart Skinner's been damn good for the Oilers, and why not run with the goalie that's been that's going to get you there, especially with how many years go by and you're wasting Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid's, best years. And I'm not saying that they're going to drop off by any means, because I don't think that they will, but that's always been the talk for the past 5-6 years.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with going with the hot hand. Like I honestly think, like Sean mentioned earlier, that it allows Campbell to kind of slowly ease himself into the Oilers system and figure out how they play and how that's different from what he was used to in Toronto and that sort of thing. But if there is a comparison, because I know this started originally with like the whole Markstrom angle, but I feel like if there was an argument where there's another team that is similar to the Skinner Campbell situation, it's actually more Vancouver. Martin's been excellent as the backup since they named him as a backup. Even if you go back to when they called him up last season, but like he's been excellent since then. He only has 1 regulation loss, and he has 4 or 5 overtime or shootout losses at this point. But like he's basically gotten us points in like over 90% of the games he's been in. So like I can see more of an argument for that than with Calgary.
It was more of that was just me being a little bit more pokey jabby, more than the actual serious there.
Facetious with your brother?
Never.
Holmes Smiths being Holmes Smiths.
Oh, I thought he was taking a jab at me, not.
I was actually more at Kev than Dev.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Surprised.
I'm gonna. We'll see. I guess we'll see on that, because it's an interesting situation what you do in that situation, and I think it's just, to me, it's not a slight to Jack Campbell as much as it is, I think, just getting a little bit more impressed with what Stuart Skinner can do. I don't think he's that bad of a goalie. I think he's a pretty solid goalie that has a chance to, take the Oilers to where they want to go too. So,
and that's why I drew the Vancouver comparison, because I feel like Martin is a solid backup, but in both cases, I feel like the starter is still going to stay the starter. It's just the backup has impressed more than expected.
They're gonna use Skinner and ride Skinner until the wheels fall off. I just expect the wheels to fall off at some point, or maybe not maybe not say that as abruptly, but I do think he's going to come back and regress to the mean, and then as will Campbell, and then they'll be more of a tandem.
Okay. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but my prediction is I think Skinner takes it at. I'm going to stick with it.
He's doubling down.
Double down. Maybe let's take this around the league here. The Sens, the Ottawa Senators. Ryan Reynolds wanting to develop some sort of ownership team. Has he contacted any of you to be part of his ownership group?
Well, my network of negative money.
I'm pretty sure none of us have the abilities to be sugar daddies for him.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I'm doing better than I was in Calgary, but I'm no venture capitalist. That's for damn sure.
I hope that this works out, because I think adding Ryan Reynolds to the NHL in some way, shape, or form, I think would be very fascinating for the league, just in terms of having that type of personality. I wonder if does Deadpool become the mascot of the Senators? I just wonder that as well.
That'll be nothing more than a gimmick.
They're a senator. They can't have a Deadpool mascot. That's what you said at the beginning of the year when the Kraken announced Bowie.
Yeah, I don't know what that thing is. I still don't know what that is, but okay.
It's a troll.
It's a troll.
Yeah, I know it has some civic historical stuff to it.
I have seen that troll under the bridge in Seattle. It is a legitimate thing.
Yeah. But bigger issue in Ottawa too is Devin. Is DJ Smith the first coach fired?
Could be. You have expectations. Everything that they did in the offseason here, with getting Giroux, trading for DeBrincat, all shows that the rebuild is over, as they said back 2-3 years ago.
That being said, though, Dorian has been pretty emphatic as far as nothing is going to happen with DJ Smith.
There's nothing like that rubber stamp of approval from a GM. Man, how many times has that bitten the coach in the ass, the vote of confidence? So, and especially when you do have a Barry Trotz out there, I think Barry Trotz in Ottawa would be a great fit if he's ready to come back to the game.
Which I believe it's been reported that he's not actively searching anything, but he's basically sitting, waiting, and no one's really contacted him, is the last I read.
I've also I don't know, take it all with a grain of salt, because I don't know how accurate it is. I also saw rumors that he wants to get back in, but he doesn't want to go to a Canadian.
I've read that as well, is that he wants a team that he can basically transition into management, and preferably not Canadian.
That sounds like retirement ready,
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, he still wants to coach, but he wants to ride graciously into the sunset.
Yeah, fair.
Also, going back to Ryan Reynolds just for a quick second, I feel like I wonder if that will, just because he already is an investor in AFC Wrexham, or whatever the team name is for the soccer team in England, I wonder if that his money tied up in that will play a effect as far as whether he can actually commit to an NHL team. Because I feel like if he does enter the picture, it's going to be more as a small minority owner, as opposed to this almost kind of take over ownership.
He does not have enough money to buy an NHL team without having partners, and he'd be the face of the ownership group, but he would not be like the majority.
He'd be the spokesperson, but he wouldn't be the money holder. Yeah.
There's a reason why when he was on, was it Fallon?
Yeah.
That he said that he needed sugar mamas and sugar daddies.
His net worth is only 150 million, so you need billies involved with that.
Yeah.
True.
I hope something works out there. I think that would be interesting for sure.
Ideally, fuck the Senators. I want him to be part of the team, the ownership group that takes over the Canucks. That would make me happy.
Take over. Yeah, I'm down for that. I mean, he's not going to change his Twitter handle, so wouldn't that be a little awkward that you're a Senators owner with Van City Reynolds?
Well, who knows how long Twitter's going to be running for too. So
yeah,
I'm still holding out hope.
Yeah. But the Sens are that's a whole interesting situation, what's going on there. Sean and I have had this debate, and a few of you have missed it, because I was one that had the New Jersey Devils in the playoffs. Sean, I believe you were like, nope, where's the goal? I believe, if I remember correctly, it was, where's the goal?
I asked, where's the goaltending? But they found it.
Yeah, and his name is Vitek Vanacek. One of the better trades of the offseason, turns out to be so far. But I don't know if they can sustain I mean, they're not going to keep winning every game. I mean, they are eventually
back to the mean.
They will come back to the mean, but I do think they're going to hang in there in the playoffs. Man, there's a lot of talent on that team. They're making things interesting. I'll say that. I still think they end up. I think, to me, like, realistically, I don't think they're top two in that division. I think they end up third or wild card. I think that would be. I think they start on the road if they make the playoffs.
They could. I'm just happy that the Metropolitan's getting shaken up, because it's been pretty mediocre for the past, or not mediocre, but it's been very predictable.
Yeah, predictable. Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah, than the past few years. So I could see, Kev, that they could drop a little bit. I mean, yeah, they're not as good as they are playing, but they're not going to be as bad as, I don't think, in a wild card. So then, who do you have up there in the Metropolitan?
Carolina stays up there.
Yeah,
and the Rain. I still think the Rangers are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two. I'm not sure about. I honestly, I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh. Like, I don't know if that team just got elderly very quickly, but I don't know what's going on. That team is confusing me. I don't see the Islanders kind of stick. The Islanders, congratulations, by the way, Matthew Barzal getting his first goal of the year after 22 assists. Like, congratulations to Matthew Barzal for doing that. I would have loved to. Yeah, I would have loved to see the 0-82. That would have been amazing. But
that would have been cool.
Yeah,
I mean, Quinn Hughes still has that opportunity.
Yes, go Quinn. No goals. But I don't know. Pittsburgh's the one team that just confuses me. They look old, slow. Something's not right in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've always talked about the drop off of Crosby and Malkin and when that's going to happen. And I don't think you're wrong within that. It's just they haven't gotten good goaltending either. Tristan Jarry, his goals against average is 3.6, and he's under 900 save percentage. So it doesn't really surprise me. If you look at that defense, it still has Chris Letang, but man, he's old. Brian Dumoulin's on there as well. Jeff Petrie. I don't know where their structure is within that defensive structure, because it doesn't sound like they're giving Tristan Jarry a chance to win. And
I know DeSmith is still probably next after Jarry, but just for shits and giggles and just my own curiosity, is Mr. Spicy Broccoli still on the roster? Mr.
No,
Domingue?
he's with the Rangers. He's with the Rangers.
Oh, okay.
So he eats spicy
The
broccoli
baker.
at a local New York restaurant. But that's another team. Well, I wonder about Mike Sullivan though too. I wonder how long his shelf life is.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Well,
I had to pick a coach other than Trotz as far as a potential Boudreaux replacement, if we're just in total fantasy land, I actually wouldn't mind bringing Sullivan back to Vancouver because he was an assistant under Torts when Torts was here.
Yep.
Maybe Rutherford's waiting for that shoe to drop.
Maybe.
Hard to say.
I mean, he's been with the Penguins for almost 7 years now. I believe this will be his 7th year. So shelf life of a coach
Has
that's
dropped
pretty
off
fucking long.
significantly. John Cooper is now the longest tenured head coach in the NHL right now.
Yeah.
You know, Bruce Boudreaux wouldn't be a bad replacement for Sullivan in Pittsburgh.
Swapsies?
Can you
That-
trade
I mean,
coaches?
Rutherford already has those connections.
Yeah, just saying.
Yeah. With his defensive structure and that having Jeff Carter, Crosby, and Malkin down the middle, that's pretty damn good.
Just make blend. Well, maybe we should touch on the Leafs here in a second. But do we believe in the Bruins?
I think they're going to drop off to a degree, but they definitely have impressed this season. I think that's undeniable.
I think they'll hold on to that top spot until the end of the year. But I mean, they're not going to go with only two losses the entire year.
Yeah, there will be
we're
some
seeing a little
regression,
bit of
but yeah.
drop-off. We're seeing a little bit drop off with Tampa. Toronto hasn't quite figured it out. Florida's not been there. I think Boston will end up winning that division. But yeah, it's a lot of it. We'll see how healthy they can be and how well Marchand and McAvoy can play when they get farther on in the season after missing a month and a half.
Also, I don't know if this is just like the whole like Toronto media argument all over again, but like it feels like for how much I've heard people complain and worry about the Leafs so far this season, they have a pretty half decent standings like record right now. Like they're 10-5-4. Like why all the consternation?
They're only one game above 500. They're
Yeah, it's been the process with them. Austin Matthews didn't seem like Austin Matthews. Their goaltending is always, was suspect with Samsonov and Murray, and then both of them got injured. So they really weren't getting the goaltending properly done.
Like goaltending, I'd understand after that happened, and I think we all kind of predicted that they basically weren't in any better of a situation goalie wise than they were the season prior, but overall, outside of the goaltending situation, I felt like it was overhyped as far as like how much trouble they were in.
I mean, talk about the basically hockey center of Canada, right? No matter what, you're going to have fans and people overreacting.
And actually, you did miss our conversation about that last week because we were kind of talking about how the Mark Masters tweet blew up about the Sedin retirement and how he tied that into how that affects both Tavares and Marner, I believe it was.
Nylander.
Or Nylander, yeah.
Love it. Yep. This is why I hate being a Leafs fan. That's the reason right there.
But how does this affect
The
the
larger
Leafs?
the larger the market, the more insane the fan base and media get. What's fun is like Vancouver hates Toronto so much, but guess what?
We're number 2 behind Toronto as far as being just as bad at those same things.
So it's
Yeah, you know, someone would have wrote a Vancouver market article in Vancouver of how, like, when Austin Matthews gets in the Hall of Fame, would that mean for the Canucks? And that would have happened the other way.
We all know Grant's had that in his drafts.
The only issue with that, Kev, is the fact that, like, we are sold that the media in Toronto is a quote unquote national media.
Yeah,
and they're not. That's the issue.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it for sure. I hear that argument. I'm not dismissing that at all. But the Leafs. It's a very interesting situation. They have turned it around a little bit. They're in second. They're 8 behind Boston. There looks like they gotta, like, I mean, if things go the way that they are, it could be Tampa Bay in the first round. It could be Detroit. Hi, the Detroit Red Wings have entered the chat. Could be Florida. Could be I mean, see where they have in the first round. This, as Tyler would say, this is not about the regular season in Toronto. It's about the playoffs. Really, ultimately, what they do in the playoffs here. So everything else, I think, is gravy at this point.
Yep.
And if we're talking about, like, the shakeup in the Atlantic and whatnot, I feel like both, like, because from what I recall hearing, like, it seemed like Buffalo was doing really well off the start, but I just looked at the standings. They're on an 8-game losing streak right now.
Yeah, they haven't won in November.
So yeah, Detroit has definitely surprised, but Ottawa and Buffalo have been a little disappointing as far as that shakeup thing that we were all hoping for.
And with going back to Toronto, there, there'll be someone who will be looking for defense as well. You've got Muzzin out long term. And
I mean, they were sniffing at Ethan Bear.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a move with Dubas make a move here soon for a defenseman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they're resorting to playing Mitch Marner on the blue line.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Hold on. Actually, or are you being facetious? I wasn't actually paying attention to, like, what's happened to the Leafs recently.
I think they played him a little bit in the Devils game. Because there's a quote from him saying, "It went well until Nico Hischier decided to walk me." So
it's stupid because that they were talking about this at the beginning of the year. Once Jamie Benn got injured, Jordy Benn got injured, and
there goes Sean. I mean, Devin doing his thing again.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was joked about and talked about in the preseason, and they have sprinkled him in a little bit. I can understand why they would want to try and bolster that offense, especially with their goaltending issues. I mean, Matt Murray actually, as of late, has been pretty decent, which is very hard for me to say.
Has somewhat lived up to the hope that Dubas has placed on him?
Oh God! You know, this will be, like Kevin said, this will be the last year of Dubas and potentially Shanahan.
The Shanahan plan,
along with this core of players, if they don't make the playoffs.
So
Dubas is going to die on that sword.
If they even get out the first round. That wasn't more a shot. I think is that a legit question? Whether or not, even if they make the playoffs, if they don't make it out of the first round,
they need to make it to. They need to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. There needs to be some sort of show, like signs of resiliency in the playoffs and being able to close it. I think it actually does depend on how they go out. If they go out. If they just give up, then that's going to be a massive thing. But if you can see them fighting for it, we'll see which way ownership wants to go with this management crew and this core. But I truly believe that Dubas is dying on that sword until the bitter end of he's not trading a piece of this core, of the top four at least.
Well, and then the significant question next year is you're keeping Matthews, but what are you paying Matthews, right?
you basically if you do not keep Matthews, it's all hell's gonna break loose.
Yeah.
Realistically. And what you do, you guys are gonna think I'm crazy, but you give a max deal. You have to.
I was going to say, does he become the highest paid player?
Yes.
He will. Yeah. McKinnon will have one season of being the highest paid player, and then Matthews, regardless of where he ends up, we'll
even in Arizona. You sure?
I mean, it may be paid out in vouchers if it's in Arizona, but
how many free hot dogs is $13 million worth?
Yeah,
how many mullets do you want, Austin?
Yeah. And that's so funny that you bring that up too, because the optics of Austin Matthews in Arizona is fucking ridiculous. Like, it's so stupid thinking about what exactly is happening in Arizona, and a player like that going there, fuck. Arizona's wishing.
To kind of make light of what Dylan just said. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, the only way that Matthews will go to Arizona is if they move.
Fair.
To Houston.
Yeah. Fair.
To kind of play off of what Dylan just said in the chat, I was actually going to kind of joke about this in the sense of with how we were just talking about the Maple Leafs and how this is kind of like their make or break season. Is this the 2010-2011 Canucks version of the Leafs, where if they don't make it past the first round, everything just blows up?
It could.
Yes.
And it would make a lot of sense when you still have Matthews, Marner, Nylander in their prime. Right? True. And, I think that you would have to lay on the sword of John Tavares for the rest of his contract, because I don't think you're getting anything for him. You'd have to eat a shit ton of money, and then you're just left with Morgan Riley, who just signed that long-term extension.
Yeah, because the Leafs have, 3 players over 10?
3 players over 10. William Nylander is the most sought after for sure. Just as far as value,
only
for his
making
contract.
6.9.
Yep.
Let me ask one more question on this. And Devin, you mentioned in the max contract that you got to toss Matthews. We had this debate with JT Miller. We had this debate with Matthew Tkachuk. Should you expect him to take a little less to develop a contender in Toronto?
Oh, you're basically like you pulling a McDavid essentially then, because McDavid was offered more, but he said, no, I want to take less to build around.
Is Austin going to be willing to do that same thing, though? I guess
I know. I don't know. You would kind of hope so, just to give a bit more relief to management to build around him a little bit. But God, it's how long is it going to be until he might get fed up with this market, right? And that's the other thing. Does he want to be there? Does he want to be at the center of the hockey universe? Because the spotlight doesn't get much bigger than that.
Fair, and that is a valid point. But the counterpoint I will bring up to that, though, is what he said after the Salming pregame thing. Like, I feel like the gravity of, yes, it's tough being in a Canadian market in the present, in the moment during your playing career. But if you are loved in Canada, you will die a legend.
Yeah.
And I think seeing how Salming was treated in Toronto kind of hit Matthews harder than he was probably initially expecting.
And rightfully so. What type of legacy do you want to have as a hockey player and potentially staying with one team your entire life? You know, there's only a few in the NHL that are able to actually say that and are as highly touted as, or have the same skill, right? Sidney Crosby will be one of those players.
Yeah, I think a big part for Matthews will actually come down to what the cap looks like. because he's got 1 year left.
Especially
He's
with
going
it
to
going up
sign,
significantly. Yeah,
and you're not going to know what that if they're able to get rid of the whatever the players owe the owners for the pandemic, all that stuff, and we know that the cap's going to go up a significant amount for that summer. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we do see him take maybe a little less. He still will be paid the most. He still will have the most, be the most paid hockey player, but maybe it'll be a little bit less. But if there's still some waffling on that, I think he'll take full on max and say, just give it to me, like, because he'll want as much as he can.
Well, and I heard someone bring this up with Bo Horvat, and I can't remember. I think it was with Saravelli, or I can't remember who it was, but I wanted to say it's Saravelli, but it was someone. The idea out there of doing a shorter term deal to figure out where this cap is and then later doing a longer term deal. I wonder if that could be something that Matthews looks at too. I mean, I think,
he's got the thing with Matthews though, Kev, is I think he's got 2 years left on his deal. So he can wait until they have a better idea, say halfway through next year, before making a decision. If he really wants to, while Bo is
in his final year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even then, I wonder if that's the way going forward. Even if he does that at 25, right? When he's out, he does a 3-year and then tries to do the longer one. He tries to get 2 big paydays out of his career.
Like, I see where you're going with that. I just I feel like because of the tier difference between Matthew and Horvat, I feel like it's 2 different conversations.
Yeah, that's fair.
Still doesn't mean it can't be the process, though, right? And the same process through it. But yeah, good point.
I just want to before we move into the other topic, and Boreas saw me was the good hitch. I just want to look at something here, just for the hell of it. Give me a second, because Connor's a UFA in 27.
Oh, you want to see if that lines up? How many years does Matthews have to sign before they let him go off to the States and bring the Ontario kid home, like they always desperately want to do?
I'm sure there's a Connor pajama photo somewhere.
Yeah, you have it somewhere. Yeah,
it would be a 2-year deal for Matthews if they're going to try and do that.
And that honestly, even if you do it for a 2-year deal of max deal for 2 years to see where it's going to happen. The only other thing is how, and I have credit, he probably has a shit ton of money and will always have endorsements. Say for instance, he gets injured, right? That's the only thing why you wouldn't do a short-term deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's
but I mean, like from us Joe Schmoes down here, the millions of dollars that he's made already. I mean, like I said, he could do whatever he wants within hockey if he does get injured and still make a shit ton.
And his kids will never have to work a day in their lives.
And his kids won't either.
And their kids either. So let's just because the next few years with some of these and even Leon Draisaitl in 2026, that'll be interesting too. But I'm not saying Draisaitl is going to leave the Oilers, but how much he makes is what the question is for me there.
Yeah, that's an interesting question of how much that greed will play into that situation, of whether that means that that 1-2 punch in Edmonton has a timeline on it at this point, or if he's willing to potentially make the math work so that way they can both stay.
Because Connor did it for number 1 center.
Yeah.
Right.
And what team success do they have by then?
Yeah.
Was last year getting to the conference finals the high watermark, or are they getting farther and doing better?
Yeah. I mean, right now, I guess the question is where you're at with the Golden Knights, because to me they are the best team in the Pacific Division. I think looking at everything, it's a reasonable.
Talk about another team that I said where are they getting their goaltending, and they fucking found it.
They found it. Oh, hello, Aiden Hill, and
Logan Thompson,
and Logan Thompson. How are you today? But yeah, it depends on where you're seeing the Golden Knights at this point. But that's, geez, good grief.
Speaking of coming back to the mean, do we think that they're going to come back down to earth, or do we think that what they're doing this season is sustainable?
I think they'll come back down.
I think they'll come back. I think they're going to win the Pacific.
Yeah.
You're going to laugh who I think the second best team in this division is, though.
You're going to say LA.
It's Seattle.
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm sorry. I'm laughing. I'm hysterically laughing at that.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're improved. They're improved, but they're not even close to that, Kev. I'm sorry.
They're not second in the Pacific. Sorry.
They're third right now. They have a healthy Brandon Tanev. They have a healthy Jaden Schwartz. They acquired Oliver Borgstrom, which was another sneaky good acquisition. Thank you, Johnny Gaudreau. And I don't know. I'm not, like, right now, to me, in terms of, if I would rank the teams in the division at this particular point, I would say Seattle is the second best team. Do they end up finishing second? I don't know. Are they fighting for a playoff spot? I think damn right they are. They are.
I think they're fighting for a playoff spot, or at least on that. They're in that mushy middle that is all over the place in the NHL right now. But you're telling me that the Oilers aren't going to, and McDavid and Draisaitl aren't going to drag that team into second place? You're telling me that LA, who have a really good team as well, aren't going to be there? You're telling me that the Flames, if Markstrom can get going, aren't going to. There's too many other teams that are going to be, I think, are going to improve over this season, and Seattle's going to either stay where they are at in terms of their level, but it won't be good enough, or drop up a little bit, but they won't be good enough to be second in that division, let alone, I think it's going to be even a struggle for them to be third.
I think the Pacific logjam is going to rear its ugly head again. I feel like there's going to be a lot of teams in that mushy middle, and I will give Kev some credit. I was just looking at the standings. The Kraken are only a loser point behind having an identical record as the Maple Leafs right now.
So, and they have games in hand on LA as well. There's 4 games there. 3 games there between them as of right now, and they're only one point back. So you know what? I think LA is going to drop. I think they'll come down to earth after everybody catches up. But you know what? I would not be surprised if Seattle. I'm leaning with Kev. I think Seattle could be the third spot in there. I don't think that at the end of the day, they might be a wild card, but I think they're fighting for that third spot in the Pacific. Edmonton, yes, they're better than what they're playing. Calgary, yes, they're better than what they're playing. And I mean, Seattle, I think that they are in that kind of mushy middle. But man, they're getting the goaltending right now. And Martin Jones has been really good.
Yeah, that was another sneaky thing. And I will say one thing that you're right, Sean. McDavid and Draisaitl can drag the Oilers to a place, but I will take the Kraken's depth over the Oilers' depth. And I don't think it's as close as people think, quite frankly. I think Matty Beniers is in the Calder Trophy race. I think Jared McCann is a legitimate threat in this league. And I mean, if we were a Kraken podcast, we would be gushing over Brandon Tanev.
Yes,
we really would.
I love him. Yeah, I love him.
And Yanni Gourde
as your third line center.
Man,
Morgan Geekie, they've been getting, and like I guess everything's kind of going their way too, because they've been getting depth scoring. Morgan Geekie as your fourth liner, that's pretty good as well. And you didn't even mention Andre Burakovsky. I don't think there, Kev. That was a massive one too.
That was a good one too. Yeah, they added and they snuckily added some pieces that made them better. That we were so focused on a Battle of Alberta, we forgot about them. That's all.
If
Like I
there's
said, I think they are better, and I think they're going to be in that battle for a wild card spot. But to say that they're the second best team in the Pacific, I think is
right now they are
a bit rich. Right now, I mean, yes, but again, you're talking about teams with Edmonton hasn't played up to snuff. Calgary hasn't played up to snuff. I just don't think that by April, I think we're going to be looking at them in that battle for the wild card if it continues to go well for them.
Now, I guess the question is, if they are kind of in that in between wild card, are they sellers or are they buyers at the end? Because this is the year. Imagine if they get number 1 pick next year, or any like top 5. Let's be honest. This draft is going to be unreal. Top 5, top 3. I know it'd be a bit of a stretch, obviously, with if you just miss, kind of still be in that builder mode and just get everything, get as much you can right now, and then build for the future. That could be a possibility. Or they might be one of those other teams, like we've already talked about with Calgary and Toronto, looking for a defenseman, because I think that's where they're lacking depth is in their defensive system.
I don't think they buy or sell. I think they just stand pat and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with Sean on that. I think that's what I would be doing there.
The thing is, like, try what they don't have much to sell. They've got Donato, who's a UFA. They've got Carson Kuhlman, who's a UFA. Carson Soucy's a UFA. And then they've got their 2 goal. They've got Martin Jones and Hellberg, who are UFAs coming up this year. But they've got a lot of long-term deals that are going to be tougher to move if they're going to quote unquote sell. So I think they're going to try and just see what happens. The longer they stay in the playoff race, the better for the market and to build the fan base. And when you look at the top of this draft, you've got Bedard, who's a center, and they're lined up center wise going forwards, even with Beniers and Wright. Then you've got Mitchkov, who's you never know when he's going to come over. Unfortunately, that's an issue. But
would he even be able to leave Russia at this point?
Again, that's why it's like you never know when he's going to come over. So I think if no matter what happens here, unless they fall off a cliff, if they're anywhere remotely in the race, they're just gonna, I think the smart move for them would just to stand pat.
Yeah, I would agree with Sean. I would stand pat. I would just see where you're at and continue to build the team around it. They've got a ton of draft picks too that they'll be able to use. I don't think I think the wonderful thing about Vegas is they got to the final right away. The terrible thing about what happened in Vegas is they plundered everything that they could have had. So I think that there's a pro and a con cautionary tale on that for sure. But yeah. The final topic is we touched on this with the Hall of Fame, but Daniel Alfredson finally got in as well. Some other names I've drawn a blank on it here, but who would we like to see in the Hall? I mean, I think Henrik Lundqvist is a lock. I think we agree with that. Henrik Lundqvist is going in. Henrik Lundqvist is the main event of next year's Hall of Fame. I think we all agree with that.
I mean, I would generally agree, but I also am not sure who else is generally eligible either.
There's one name that needs to go in the Hall of Fame yesterday.
McGillney.
I don't know why he's not in there. Yes. Like what? Like he hits every mark. Like he's won cups. He's won world championships. He's won world juniors. He was one of the first Russians to leave and had to go through all that. So that tells a big part of the story, a big part of the history and story of hockey.
And how poetic is it with the whole Russian situation right now, too?
Yeah, and Dylan's going to hate me for it, but he's got better stats than Paul Kariya, who's in the Hall of Fame. And I think rightfully so. Why the hell is Alex McGillney not in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. Like, I honestly, that's confusing to me too. He should. I think there was a legitimate argument he was a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I don't know. I don't know what happened there. He even played in Toronto, which you would have thought would give you some clout of getting in there.
If he doesn't get in next year, I think it's just what are we doing? Like you're a lot like win, but you're not going to allow someone who's like to me it's an absolute overdue travesty that he's not in there.
Yeah. But I guess to get back to my original question,
Rod Brindamore, I think, should be in there.
Hey, who else is eligible? Beyond Brindamore.
Justin Williams is eligible.
Clutch, but not Hall of Fame.
I would agree.
I think it was Daily Faceoff put out there once, and they had Corey Crawford in there. I'm like, no. Like
no.
He was the goalie. He was like the goalie who was behind a really good team. Like that's
he was a benefactor. Yeah. Not the reason he was a benefactor. He was the Kevin Lowe of the Blackhawks.
I believe Henrik Zetterberg is eligible.
Oh, he should be in there.
Yeah, I'd vote for Zetterberg.
So I think the big one for me, I still think it is McGillney, no matter who you tell me. Like why? Like why?
Yeah, he's waited too long.
473 goals, 1,032 points in 990 games. Like over a point per game was part of the part of the story of hockey. With you had Russian players and Soviet players defecting to come play in the NHL.
Dare I say it? He's the Russian Salming.
Yeah, he was one of the first ones to do it. Yeah.
I want to look to something. Sorry, this is not great podcasting here, but I want to look something up here because I thought one of the things that was said by one of the Hall of Famers, Rika Salinen, she said that she didn't expect to get into the Hall of Fame because she was a European and never played in North America. And I just want to look who's in the okay. So who do we have here? Because I don't think there's I'm going my brain here. I don't think there's a lot. Like Sergei Gonchar's still not in the Hall of Fame. I think Sergei Gonchar should be in the Hall of Fame. You've got Tretiak, you've got Fedosov, you got Harlamov, Larionov, Bure. That's it. Is Sergei Makarov? Someone telling me Sergei Makarov is not in the Hall of Fame? That seems odd to me. Like it feels. I think that's. I wonder if it's just a Russia perception a little bit here, or some sort of bias.
Makarov's a tough one. He only played 424 games.
Okay, but it's the Hockey Hall of Fame, and he did.
I know that's the problem. Is it does get treated as the NHL. So,
like the KLM line is one of the greatest lines in hockey history. like it's like if you're legitimately wanting to tell the story of hockey, that line is part of the story of hockey. Like that has to be in the Hall of Fame. To me, in my opinion, I don't know.
But I think part
mystery.
of it is like you have to like the end. We're telling the story from the NHL's perspective as the NHL is the pinnacle of hockey. If you don't get to the pinnacle of hockey and stay there and produce there at a high rate, that's the narrative that you're fighting there.
Yeah. As unfair as that might be or not, but that is the general perception.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if like Sean was alluding to, like, if you are playing, like, even if you essentially reach your country's hockey Hall of Fame, if you will, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, just because of the general perception of if you never made it to the top tier league of hockey, which is arguably the NHL, like it's, I guess, hard to fight that perception of, like, if you didn't make it to the pinnacle of the sport, how much do you deserve to be in the sports Hall of Fame?
But any historian will tell you that there was a bunch of political things that didn't allow for that to happen.
And there's legitimate arguments going the other way. I'm just saying it's hard to fight that narrative.
Yeah.
I agree with you about McGillney. I also think I keep gushing about her, but Jennifer Botterill is not in the Hall of Fame.
That's another big thing, is like they seem to only want to do one woman, even though they're allowed. They've got 2 spots, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But as much as you have Jennifer Botterill, I think there are still players that I would have above her. That should be eligible at this point. Like, is who of the women are in there?
While you're doing that, I would encourage you to, if you can find it, Kevin Woodley has made an argument for Francois Allaire to be in the Hall of Fame, and I think it's a legitimate.
As a builder,
yeah, that's a legitimate, like, that's another one.
He's responsible for both Watt and Luongo. Is there any other goalies he's responsible for?
Well, he's really responsible for the whole goaltending coach position evolving to where it is.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Yeah, if there's no Ian Clark without a Francois Allaire. Like, so
fair enough.
Yeah, he should be in. I find the Hockey Hall of Fame particularly confusing because I don't really understand what the process is. And I mean, Sedins and Luongo, I don't have no problem with the group. I'm not saying the Sedins and Luongo don't get into the Hall of Fame, but that's not what I'm saying. But it's like you get these bog downs like Sergei Gonchar. Sergei Zubov's not in the Hall of Fame. I think that there's a legitimate argument that Sergei Zubov should be in the Hall of Fame.
Someone get Lanny on the phone. Explain it to us, Lanny.
Well, there are going to be some that will put up Theo Fleury as a name that should be in the Hall of Fame as well. And I think his political opinions have kept him, I think in part have kept him out.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
I think that's undeniable at this point.
Yeah, and in terms of going back to women, Cassie Campbell's not in the Hall of Fame yet.
Yeah, she should be in.
She should be in there. I think she should be right at the top. But there is a lot of politics in there, and it's how many 80s Oilers are in there when you wonder, right?
And there's one that isn't in that should be in. And I don't know where you put him, but Joey Moss deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame.
As
God,
far as
you always
just
put me in
categories?
such an awkward position because he's part of telling the story of the Oilers, but based off of how they have things, I just don't know where. Like maybe
Yeah,
just
I
have
know.
a Joey Moss exhibit within the Hall of Fame where you tell that story. That's great. I think that's fair, but it's
something to, yeah, I feel like ultimately that might be the best case scenario, is something to honor him that doesn't necessarily induct him in the formal sense.
Could you argue he's a builder?
no.
Like, I know that we traditionally look at builders as general managers and someone who has coached
Just as a
or
supporter of the sport, I feel like that's too far of a stretch.
okay.
I know where you're going for. Like, you're basically trying to find a loophole to make it happen. I just don't think. I just feel like it's too much of a stretch. I'm sorry.
Fair. I got one more name, and he's still active, but I've heard the argument and I support it. I think David Poile should be in the Hall of Fame.
I think he will get there as a builder, but it just
first ballot once he retires. I feel, just not while he's still actively in it.
But he's been active. He's the longest serving general manager of Nashville. He was a longest serving general manager of Washington. He's been in this league for a long time. I would not be opposed to having him in the Hall of Fame now.
Again, that's a bit of a loophole type situation, which I think they have done with the builders. Because I can't.
Gary Bettman's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, that's Gary. Like, but yeah, with the builders, I think they do have a little bit more of that. Like, oh, you're still active, but we're going to put you in because of what you've done with one team or whatever, or in a different role. But I think he will get in. It'll just be when, not if, with him for sure.
Fair. Anything else we need to discuss? Man, we've been back to our old 2-hour days.
Yeah, I was gonna say we exceeded a full 120 minutes this time. Yeah, to answer your question, I feel like we have kind of hit everything we needed to hit this week.
Oh, Devin left. Oh. I didn't realize that. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at
good Lord. It took you that long to realize that?
Where's Devin? Oh, it's been 10 minutes. Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. We're back next Sunday. We'll have the news packs. Tuesday, Wednesday for sure. We'll see about Monday. There's only 2 games, so I don't know but we'll see what we can do there. And then there's no games on American Thanksgiving. And then Friday, they're a big full slate of games as the Oilers are on the road, the Flames are on the road, the Canucks are in the gauntlet of the Knights and the Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche this week. So should be an interesting week going on here. And as of course, the next week we'll do myth or fact. Already teased this. Myth or fact, the American Thanksgiving playoff bubble truth. We need to dissect that. That's actually true or not. All right, we're gonna wrap. So we'll wrap it up. How do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Connect 03 on Twitter.
I'm at Schneid's on most social media.
Tyler TNOBLE, Devin Gordhow09, and he sneaked away. Bye, Devin. I am KEVOLE. Also, I am on Mastodon. So if you're going towards Mastodon as Twitter is apparently dying, find me there too. I haven't posted much there, but
what
I've
server?
Because
that's a big issue there, Kev.
I'm in the Newsy server now. That thing is so good. It's confusing. Anyway,
I haven't even attempted to jump over yet, but I will only do that when it's necessary. Otherwise, I'm going to stay loyal and stay on that sinking ship.
All right, you stay on the Titanic. I don't think Twitter's going anywhere. I don't anyway. But yeah, so I've moved there. And then, of course, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as in the Area 51 Sports Network. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Lots that we talked about. Let us know what you think. Give us a thumbs up somewhere. Rate and review us with 5 stars. That'd be nice, too. and we'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.